This year's summer edition of Samsung's Galaxy Unpacked took place here in Korea for the first time ever and showcased its latest series of foldable phones that boast notable features, including a flatter hinge and a bigger display. So simply speaking, what is the appeal of its latest line of products? What has been the public response? And what can Samsung foldables do to maintain their edge in the market? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today we delve into Samsung's Galaxy Unpacked event, which opened this past Wednesday here in Korea for the first time, in contrast to the company's early events, which were held beyond borders. For more on this, I have Dillon Seo from Deutsche Telekom here in the studio with us. Dillon, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
I also have Kwon Soa, as always. Soa, welcome back.
Hello, Sunny.
Right, so let's begin with details of Samsung's Galaxy Unpacked here in the country.
Sure. Sunny, are you ready to join the flip side?
A little bit, yes.
Well, join the flip side was the message that Samsung Galaxy Unpacked had when it unveiled its newest Galaxy gadgets when those were announced on Wednesday, 8 p.m. in Samsung Electronics' home country, Korea, in the capital Seoul for the first time at COEX, to be exact. So some 2,000 participants were there, including local and foreign media, consumers, as well as celebrities and influencers. And the event was also streamed live on a number of platforms for the world to watch together. Suga from BTS, Chang Won-young from IVE, American actress Sydney Sweeney made appearances there as well. But the real stars of the evening were the updated Galaxy Z series smartphones, or Samsung's fifth generation foldable smartphones. So the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Galaxy Z Fold 5. The Galaxy Watch 6 series, as well as a new trio of tablets, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9, S9 Plus, and S9 Ultra were unveiled as well. The event kicked off with a keynote speech by No Tae-moon, or TM Ro, president and head of Samsung Electronics mobile division, followed by other top executives who showcased the latest products. No said the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Galaxy Z Fold 5 are the latest devices that prove Samsung's commitment to meet customers' needs through innovative technology. Samsung Electronics expects to sell 10 million units of the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and Fold 5 combined.
Right, I see. And Dillon, like I mentioned earlier, Samsung has held its Galaxy Unpacked here for the first time. And it's also the event itself comes a little bit earlier than usual. Are we looking at a shift in marketing strategy, do you think?
Well, I'm not exactly sure if I can comment that Samsung has shifted the marketing strategy, but I think choosing Korea this time was wisely done, in my opinion, simply because Korea is known to be one of the most innovative countries in the world. According to the Bloomberg Innovation Index, Korea has been always ranked one of the top countries in the world who shows a strong innovation. So showing the Flip and the Fold of the Z series, which is shown to be very innovative products in the world, choosing Korea in that sense is pretty smart choice. At the same time, I would say because of the K-pop, K-culture going pretty strong in the world in terms of influence, showing Korean culture at the same time is probably a good marketing strategy for Samsung to show its new series of the phones.
You're right. Previously, its preferred launch market, if I may, was the US or Europe, right?
That is correct.
Right.
That is correct.
And so, simply speaking, what makes these new phones that you mentioned earlier different from their previous versions?
Well, let's start with the Galaxy Z Flip 5, the upgraded version of Samsung's folding flip phone. At first sight, the design is similar to the former Flip 4, but soon you will realize the front display is much bigger. It's a 3.4-inch cover screen that it includes, and the Flip 4 was 1.9-inch, the cover that is. And another significant upgrade is the new hinge design that makes it possible for the phone to close or fold perfectly flat, leaving no gap near the hinge. And there's also a storage upgrade with the lowest storage starting at 256 gigabytes. Now let's move on to the Galaxy Z Fold 5. Keeping all the benefits from the former version, the Z Fold 4, which was already successful in appealing as a phone that gives you the phone, tablet, and desktop PC experience all at once, the Z Fold 5 has now become lighter and slimmer, so more comfortable to hold and use. In fact, it weighs 253 grams, which is 10 grams lighter than the previous version. It's 6.1 millimeters thick when opened and 13.4 millimeters when folded. And just like the Flip 5 has a new hinge, meaning a gapless design when folded. And also, both of these phones have multiple ways to personalize them and customize the phones as well.
Right, I see. Good to know. And Dillon, what has been the general response to these new phones?
I believe they were pretty well received. I've been looking at some of the electronic reviews on the internet, including the YouTube video, and they were, the shape of the phones and the functionalities and the upgrades were sort of expected. There's a lot of information that has been spilled before, so nothing came to be a surprise, but the way that showed the gadgets, the widgets, the way that the apps were functioning were pretty impressive. The fact that there was a lady who was taking a selfie with another Korean actress using the flip phone, the use cases they were demonstrating was pretty fascinating. So I think overall, the people who are looking for the new folds or flips, we're pretty much happy with the product that were presented during the Unpacked event.
Right. And that being said, Dillon, what are the prospects of these new phones perhaps challenging the popularity of iPhones among the younger generation here in the country?
Right. So that is actually a pretty tough question. But the way that Samsung attempted in the event by showing the different use cases, customizable, the front face, and a lot of the UX, overall user experience on the external display on the flip phones, and also the apps themselves. They're being very well customized and well suited for the new fold and flip design. I remember using the very first version of the Fold personally, and all I've seen was kind of only benefit I saw from the using Fold was the bigger screen. All the apps were just enlarged in the larger screen. But this time, they actually made the screen quite usable. So YouTube, the way the YouTube is being played, the way the camera apps were being used, the way the Kakao Talk is being used, they were all very well fitted to the purpose of the flip and the fold. So for the new generation, MZ generation, who are looking for interesting ways to use their phone apps, including the highly customizable front face, I think they will like it very much.
When you're talking about the picture taking with the flip phone, are you talking about, when you talk about external display, that is, if I'm taking a picture of you with the flip phone, you can actually see yourself from my external display?
Exactly.
Right.
And also you can simply touch the screen to take the photo rather than finding a button to actually press it. So like when you're using it, all you gotta do is use your thumb to click and then just take the photo.
Impressive.
I just want to quickly add, I think you can also use the watch when you take a photo. So if you have your new phone over there and just click on your watch and can take pictures and videos as well.
And I think TikTokers will also love that too, because the way you need to take the video, you can use the benefit of being folded, so you can just use the 90-degree angle, and then you don't have to you don't need to have an actual stand to take your video. So you can take the phone from a distance, you can do your TikTok video, and then just easily post them. It
must be really
TikTok.
convenient.
Exactly.
I see. Also, on the topic of prospects, so what is the overall market outlook, that is, with regard to the global foldable smartphone?
In one word, I'd have to say rosy, because recent figures do show that people are liking the benefits of foldable smartphones as the phones are getting smaller again. if they are folded, while the modern technology all fits in there as well. So almost all phone manufacturers have jumped on the bandwagon or are getting prepared. Foldables have been released by Google, Motorola, Oppo, Honor, and iPhone not yet, but rumors are that next year it might have its first foldable. Now, according to Counterpoint Research's Market Pulse, which analyzes the global handset market sell, the foldable phone market's annual growth is predicted to reach 114% in the 6-year span from 2019 to 2025. While Samsung has been a front-runner in the foldable smartphone market, the global growth projections are largely attributed to China, expected to produce a massive amount of new foldables in the coming years. So this year it has produced 5.3 million, and next year the number is expected to almost double to 10 million, and by 2025, 17 million. And no wonder, as the Chinese foldable market surged 117% on year in the first quarter of 2023 alone, while the smartphone market itself actually saw a decline by 8% in the same period.
Right, I see. Dillon, pundits claim that Samsung's latest launch of its flagship foldables comes amid a rather crowded landscape, if I may, given the presence of rivals out there. What should Samsung do, perhaps, to maintain its lead?
Sure. So I think the single most important thing for Samsung to consider is continue to push the UX boundaries. Like Soa pointed out before, Apple has not moved into the foldable phones yet. I think they still have the strong confidence that their existing Apple ecosystem will allow the phones to be sold. At the end of the day, people are looking for interesting use cases that their smartphones can perform. And so ultimately, optimizing the user experience that's suited to the foldable phones will give them a continuous lead. Of course, the hardware perspective, Samsung has been always the top performer, using the latest generation of Snapdragon and also using the highest memory availability for both RAM and also hard disk. But that alone is not going to make them the leader in the long run. So I think continuous investment into their One UI, which is a Samsung branded user interface for their Samsung phone, needs to be continually driven. Also thinking about the interesting use cases that will appeal to the younger generation to keep them in their brand loyalty.
I see. Speaking as a pundit on the outside, Dillon, which companies would you pick as perhaps potential rivals to Samsung with regard to the foldable phone market?
Of course, we have a very strong wave coming from China. Motorola, which has just released the Motorola Razr Plus in United States, and I think it's called the Razr 40 Ultra for the rest of the market. It was actually released just last month, and a lot of people were comparing the device with Flip Z4, and were praising that it is a better phone than the Z Flip 4 because of the larger external screen and the way that the apps were being used in that particular device experience. Of course, Samsung now with the Flip Z5, which has a superior processor and bigger size of RAM, and also better waterproof, all in terms of functionality and in hardware, it's a far better product with the exact same price tag as the Razr Plus. So I think there's no worry for Samsung to stay ahead of the competition, but we are starting to see a very strong competition from China. So it is something to watch out for.
Right, and there is definitely room for greater improvement then.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, so the general observation I understand in recent years is that the global smartphone market itself has been saturated. What more can you tell us?
Well, first off, I want to ask you guys a question. Sunny, Dillon, how often do you change your phone?
Okay, I'm going to let Dillon go first with that question.
Well, I don't think I speak for the norm because I'm a more tech enthusiast. So my changing period is usually about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Right, I think I took a slightly longer than that.
I thought so. Actually,
No
same
secret
here.
there.
I mean, I think recently my payment contract, the 2-year contract, expired. But then I didn't think of getting a new phone. I just extended it for another year. So these days, I mean, in the recent years, I've been using my phones for 3 or 4 years. And actually, there were times when people changed their phones every 2 years or even every year when new phones with new features came out. However, this trend has been changing recently. Just like the latest Galaxy series, more and more high-end and premium phones are being released in the market, and customers' demand for such phones has been growing too. That meaning, on the flip side, that because these phones are getting better and better, they are also getting more expensive, and people use them much longer, 3 to 4 years. So the smartphone market has matured and saturated in many countries, and along with the decreasing demand, inflation continues to weigh on consumers as well. Let me cite some figures by Market Pulse again. Global smartphone market sales dropped 8% on year in the second quarter of this year and 5% on quarter. This marked the 8th consecutive quarterly decline. But while the rapid growth phase in the global smartphone market seems to be past and consumer replacement periods have gotten longer, the premium segment has shown an increase recently. In fact, devices with a price tag starting at $600 were the only segment that reported a growth in the second quarter this year, hitting its highest ever Q2 contribution to the market.
Right, I see. And against this backdrop, Dillon, do you suppose that premium phones are the alternatives to perhaps pushing the market forward?
Of course, let's first talk about what is considered premium phones, right? So premium phones are the phones that people are willing to pay extra money, not for the it's quite opposite of the big bang for the buck. You're actually buying the name value and the so prestigious sort of way to show yourself, right? So Samsung has been positioned as the #1 most successful premium Android phones in the market that can only compete against the Apple in the other side. However, I think when people are starting to use the mediocre or low-end phones, they start to see that their phones are not performing the way they wanted to, using the app's perspective. Then they're starting to look for better performing phones as they gain more experience from the lower-end phone. I think so in that sense, premium phone sales will increase over time. However, we should not discard the market where people cannot afford such expensive phones. Although there's telcos like Deutsche Telekom is offering various price plan so that people can afford these expensive phones for longer contract. But still, for those people who are seeking for mediocre phones just because they don't have the budget, then that market shouldn't be discarded. But like Soa said, the demand for the premium phone is increasing over time for sure.
Right, I see. Dillon, this is an impromptu question, but I was wondering, why is it that Samsung has decided perhaps to limit the functionality of its smartwatches, a few of them which Soa mentioned earlier in the program, to Android devices only?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, Samsung has never been a forte for the software part. So Apple itself is a very unique company who has been building the laptop and the PC for a long time. So they've been making their own operating system called the Mac OS. They extended the Mac OS into the iPhone when they first launched iPhone series back in 2006 or 2007, if I remember correctly. It can be around there. And they actually modified the Mac OS into iOS so that it can be used for their iPhone UX development. Samsung, however, never had that luxury of having their own operating system. Android being the only open source, Android has an open ecosystem that anybody can use Android to build a device, including the tablet, phones, and the PCs, and so on. So Samsung only had a choice of using the Android. Of course, Samsung has attempted before using the other operating system to diversify from the using Android, but the attempt did not come to be very commercially successful, unfortunately.
Right, I see. We have some minutes left, so which is why I'm going to move beyond the smartphone market. But with regard to smartphone-related news, on a more sobering note, so I understand UNESCO has called for a global ban on smartphones at schools. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Right, the United Nations education body made that call amid concerns of a negative link between excessive or inappropriate use of smartphones or digital technology as a whole and academic performance. So that could be distraction and classroom disruption, also negative effects not only on performance at school, but also emotional stability of children. So a report released by UNESCO says the call for a ban of smartphones in classrooms sends a clear message that digital technology should always be, quote-unquote, subservient to a human-centered vision of education. And with that, it urged for countries and policymakers to seriously consider the ban of phones at schools. UNESCO estimates that 1 in 4 countries have already a ban in place. If I remember correctly, some countries in Europe, like France and also in the UK, they do have these bans.
Right, I see. And Dillon, let's end with one question with regard to the market itself. Of course, one online website claims that Samsung Galaxy's S23 Ultra is the best phone of this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've read the article claiming that Galaxy S23 Ultra is the best phone. In terms of hardware performance, I think there's no doubt that Samsung offers the best combination of all the hardwares. Best display quality, fastest processor, and highest memory for the norm. Because right now they're selling 256 gigabytes as a bottom line, whereas the other phones are selling 128 gigabytes. So they offer more memories, better performance, better display quality. So in that sense, I would say S23 Ultra is the best performing phone. However, there's also other aspects to look at in terms of the app ecosystem beyond the phone. For example, my wife, she's a strong Apple user. She uses iPhone, MacBook, iPad, even iMac at home. So all her files and all her user experience are all synchronized with all the other devices. So she can never get away from this, Apple's ecosystem. So if you look at the phone as the hardware, yes, I would say Samsung is the best. But if you look at the overall ecosystem, I think Apple has a very strong chance to be claimed as one of the best phones out there.
Right. Well, that's competition for Samsung. I'm sure it's listening to you probably and doing more to improve itself. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition. Dillon, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today.
Thank you very much.
And so, as always, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Right. Well, for those of you interested, pre-orders for the latest line of Galaxy phones begin August 1st here in Korea and will be available starting August 11th. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.